It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, oh, it's black and white. Oh, oh, it's black and white. Come on, baby. Love, no more, baby. Black and white. Come on, baby. Love, no more, baby. It's black and white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico. It's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico. It's black and white. White, white, white. It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white. It's black and white.
Hello everyone and welcome to another Sunday Drivers MX-5 Cup Round 5 here at Summit Point. My name is Jack Oliphant in the SRW Virtual Commentary Box, and joining me as ever is Jack Werrell. Jack, how the devil are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much. Good evening everybody and welcome, like Jack said, to round 5 of the Sunday Drivers MX-5 Cup. We are here at Summit Point, one of the shorter circuits we've been to, one of the tighter, twistier circuits we've been to, but then again, as soon as you join iRacing, you get dumped in this car if you want to take that road route through all the series, and 9 times out of 10 you'll end up on this circuit as well. So it's a basic car and a basic circuit, and it'll put literally everybody back to where they learned, what they learned about iRacing and how the car handles. So we could see a few people sneaking their way up the order, just those ones that are getting in touch with their iRacing rookie, and you never know, we could see a few new names up at the top of the times.
Well, like you said, it's largely a sort of a throwback track, isn't it, really, for a lot of these drivers? And to be honest, they don't need much shaking and baking, do they? Because everywhere you look in the MX-5 Sunday Drivers Cup, it's action, left, right and centre. And that was true to form even last time out at Silverstone, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Last time at Silverstone, we saw a range of battles up and down the order, as is expected in these MX-5s. You can see the people in the background there just pushing the limits. The drivers seeing where they can and can't run wide at various sections of the circuit. But yeah, at Silverstone, it was one of those ones where it was door to door, nose to tail, trading paint absolutely everywhere, and we definitely weren't left with a boring race. And I can imagine it's only going to be closer this evening, but it seems like that's the case every round. We say, oh, it can't get closer than this, it can't get closer than this, and I think we've just got to accept the fact they will always find a way to one up us.
Well, MX-5s, fantastic cars, were built for fantastic championships, and this is no different, really. And well, we were always saying as well, every single round we quite look forward to the next one. We can't wait for the next one, and to be honest, we have been waiting a full 3 weeks, as we normally do, for this one. And well, we can have a look at how Silverstone finished off, Jack, can't we? Because the championship is right up on our screen now. However, the first thing we have to go through is the results from Silverstone.
Yep, so round 4 at Silverstone, obviously in the Legacy circuit on the full GP layout. Chaz Draco, as you can see, our eventual winner. He got pole position, he got the full 30 points for the race win, of course the bonus for the pole position, and he found himself only 2 points ahead of Roberto Garcia at the end of that round in regards to the points they earn. Obviously Roberto got the fastest lap. Sander Borst crossed the line to round out your podium. Then it was Patrick Borst, Sander Ware, Andy Lovesey, Stephen Orell, Ben Hicks, Peter Reid and Joseph Kivani rounded out your top 10, and you can see there the rest of the order fairly close together. It's all similar names on that race result, and I'm guessing the championship will be even closer.
It will indeed, and we can have a look at that championship now. There we go, Roberto Garcia. Then he may have finished second at Silverstone, but he's top of the championship at the moment with 107 points. That is somewhat owing to the fact that Chaz Draycott has had to miss a round already this season, and unfortunately he'll miss a round this evening. However, I'm pretty sure he'd rather be doing exactly what he is doing, which we will tell you about a little bit later. Sander Borst is in third place with 86 points, not that far behind second place, so I think Chaz probably will fall down the order after the end of this evening. Ben Hicks is in fourth with 82, a driver who had a bit more of a quiet Silverstone from memory. Louis Correa was rounding out the top 5 with Patrick Borst in 6th position. Gaffal is in 7th, Ellett in 8th, Orell in 9th, and rounding out the top 10 is Kivani. And, well, you can have a look at the rest of the tight order going down. You can see the likes of 14th place, 36 points for Patrick Reid, but Cavisto and Austin are joining him on those points tally. And then Sander Ware in 17th with 32, Armstrong and Oliveira also joining him. So no matter where you look, it's there's battles and there's points to be scored. And that's not just true for the championship in the drivers, but also the team, Jack.
Yeah, so the team's championship is, while it's been ebbing and flowing, we're seeing the same sort of names as is expected, but Fast Cars Go Bang leading the way only by 5 points over iRacing Netherlands. They're on 108. Hispania Racing closing up on that century with 98 points. Ignia Motorsport in 4th on 86. Simtech Racing on 73 points. Keep an eye out on them this evening. They do seem to be quite strong here, obviously working together as usual. SRL sat there in 6th on 61. Zancho Simsport, of course, that is a lone driver team with Chaz Draycott being the only entry for Zancho, sat there on 59, 1 point ahead of Simtech Racing Silver, Armstrong Racing in 9th, and H20 Esports Racing rounds out your top 10 on 45 points.
Yeah, Zancho Simsport may get a rebrand. You never know of some insider information, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to tell you, so I'll keep it under wraps for now. But when we go back live, you can see the timings on the left-hand side of the screen for the practice. Sander Borst and Patrick Borst, they're right there, aren't they? iRacing Netherlands have come to play here tonight at Summit Point with Roberto Garcia Campos is the driver who was just pulling out the pits then in Hispania Racing colours. And, well, as I said, iRacing Netherlands, they've come to play this evening. They're getting quick, even though there's maybe only a small handful of them compared to maybe the H20 esports drivers. They're still showing fantastic pace.
Yeah, absolutely. And, yeah, like you say, while the guys up at the top of the order are really starting to stretch their legs and getting comfortable up there, like you say, Roberto Garcia Campos only, half a tenth away from those top guys, and then we get quite the jump back, almost 2.5 tenths back to Dan Mould and Ignia Motorsport. Of course, Dan making the change from Simulation Racing Leagues to Ignia Motorsport, a season ago, and he's really started to fit the mould. However, he's being hounded by his ex-teammate Michael Ellett, sat there in 5th at the moment with a 122.02 matched by Stephen Orell and Holy Cow Racing.
Yeah, a brief update on what the times are in practice up there on the left-hand side of your screen for now. We'll take it away in a couple of minutes, so have a quick look, but it's clear to see that Patrick Bors and Sander Bors, well, there's nothing between them. We know they're teammates. They probably drafted each other for it as well. It's 7 thousandths of a second even, separating the top two. And I have to say, Roberto Garcia only half a tenth behind as well. So we're expecting fireworks this evening. But of course, we're missing out on our second place man, Chaz Draycott, unfortunately. I would probably wager he may well be watching, although he may be enjoying a nice cold drink in the south of France at the moment there, Jack.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. After all, he has had a very busy day at a little circuit called Nogaro with the Renault Clio Cup Europe Series, doing all the live streams for that. The live stream today went absolutely brilliantly, and of course, he's got another race tomorrow, so make sure you keep an eye out for that as well. He is doing a great job, and I've got a feeling, yeah, he is rather enjoying himself over there, and while he does miss out on some great action behind the wheel here this evening, hopefully we can bring it to him in regards to the broadcast and just showing what he's missing out on.
Yeah, exactly, and good luck, Chaz, for tomorrow, of course. Just having a look and see if anybody out there is improving somewhat. Obviously, it's practice, so you can get a good feel of how many drivers are confident of the circuit before jumping into the server, and some potentially not. One of those drivers who is going quite well, though, is Michael Ellett. He's completed 26 laps, about to be 27 laps, since jumping into the practice server, in comparison to probably the average, which is about 15, 16 laps. Pedro Marimon Cladera, he's only completed 6.5 and currently in the pits. Seemingly quite confident, even though he's all the way down in 23rd at the moment.
Yeah, and that just shows, like you say, that the differing confidence levels between all of the drivers. And of course, while you want to make sure you are quite a dap hand at most of the circuits you go to in these Masters, because they haven't got the greatest amount of horsepower, 180 brake, which it's not going to set the world alight, but it is enough in a car that weighs under a ton. It's only about 900 kilos worth of metal sat rolling around this Summit Point circuit. So the power for the weight is incredible. And while you want to make sure you can maximise your time out on circuit and see what sort of lap time you can piece together, you don't want to show your hand, because we've seen that happen so many times. We've seen people tear away in practice, and you're thinking, right, they're going to be there or thereabouts. The other drivers will notice that, and then in the race, it gets flipped on its head, and they're stuck there in the midfield because they've realised, right, I've shown my hand too early, and what can I do now?
It's a bit more of a, as I said before, a throwback track, though, isn't it? I mean, we've been to Tsukuba this season. That was described as a go-kart track by not only yourself, but race winner that evening, Chaz Draycott. In fact, second place, sorry. This is of a similar ilk, isn't it? I mean, we're jumping from the likes of Tsukuba, and then I think we went straight to Silverstone. Now we're jumping back to a circuit that I think there's no getting around it. It's a little bit more of a go-karting track, if anything. It looks like a public road, and yeah, it's a different challenge left, right and centre, isn't it, for these drivers? And not only will it be a challenge to actually get the cars round and create a good qualifying pace from it, it'll also be a challenge to race on it. Yeah, at the end of the day, to launch up the inside of someone at Silverstone is fairly safe. You could probably go around the outside of people and not really feel it either. But around here, it's very unforgiving, isn't it? And if you make a mistake, or if you put a wheel too wrong, or somebody doesn't give you quite enough space as you're hoping for, it's game over, isn't it? You're in the trees that are in the background of your shot right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not like this circuit is not. It has seen its fair share of action. It held the IMSA GT Championship between 1971 and 1998, so it has had some pretty hefty machinery rocketing its way around here. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's got all the scenery for cars to be thrown at. You can see a car in the background deciding to make the most of the gravel trap, and you've also got that big undulation. Almost a hill just sat there on the side of the circuit. So you've got to remember, if you're heading towards that at some sort of speed, you're on the grass, you'll struggle to slow down. You go over that and you're going to end up straight back in the pit lane, and that could be race over, because it can put you a lap and a half behind, because it's not exactly a majorly long lap like we've seen, between sort of 1 minute 20, 1 minute 25 seconds for a lap, and a towback can be double that at certain points on the circuit. So it's all about, I think, damage management and making sure the complexion of the race swings your way this evening, making sure that you stay out of trouble. And Rene sat there at the moment, slightly out-braking himself. You do that in the race, and instead of just losing one position to the fast cars go bang machine, I think that's Ben Hicks that has just gone by, you'll end up losing, 10 cars and maybe not get out of it cleanly.
Yeah, well, again, it's MX-5 racing is very much like go-karting, isn't it, really, in a lot of ways. You know, you lose you put a foot out of place and you lose 5 places because they're just nose to tail constantly, basically. Sander was on the chat, Sander Ware, I believe it was on the sort of chat with us earlier on, and he said that gearbox and nose shots, camera angles, are going to be really good tonight because the drafting and how close these cars are going to be is going to be a brilliant show. And I'm very much looking forward to utilising that piece of information because I do love a nose cam and a gearbox cam. It really brings you into the action and brings you into how close these cars can run with each other, doesn't it? I mean, they are astonishingly lacking in aerodynamics, you could say. They are basically bricks on wheels, and that punches a massive hole in, and that allows people to really use the toe, especially on the straight you're about to see now, on the start-finish straight, going into that first corner, a heavy braking zone. You're going to see a lot of people potentially lunge up the inside there, which I'm all for. Anything that gets these drivers trying to overtake each other in more unconventional ways as possible, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. These Mazdas, they're just so close. And you could see at Silverstone, we saw some 3-4 wide action even at some points. And even around here, you could probably go 3 wide round most of it, 2 wide to be safe. But we're still going to see lots and lots of action. And we'd be lying if we said we were expecting a clean race. It's not going to happen. These cars, like you say, they're so close knitted. The only way to get by is literally drive it like a touring car. The occasional nudge here and there, squeeze your way through, trade a bit of paint. But everybody has got that same sort of ethic, but behind the wheel. They know what they can get away with, they know what they can't get away with, and they really do ride the line. And around here, it's going to just amplify that completely. We're going to see a fair bit of contact, hopefully very minimal, but we will see a fair bit of contact, and it could just be what decides the race. And as we're closing in on the 50-minute mark in this practice session, getting towards the checkered flag, you can see drivers making mistakes, just little ones, albeit here, there, and everywhere. And that could just be they've got to the point where they've had a couple of laps, they've got used to the circuit, and now they're starting to look for that time. But once again, if you do that in the race, Jacko, you see an H20 car just go for a bit of a rumble around. Who was that? That was the number 36 machine of Arturo De Villa. If you do that in the race, you're going to lose an absolute raft of positions.
You are indeed, and if anybody's wondering how close this is potentially lining up and why we're sort of bigging up them as close races, if you have a look from the man we're currently looking at, Michael Ellett in 5th place, all the way down to Dean Catherwood, so that is 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. They're all separated by less than a tenth of a second. And then if you look at Sander Ware, down to Louis Correa, again, less than a tenth of a second separates them. So realistically, 5th down to 12th, that's 7 positions separated by less than 2/10 of a second. And you just don't see that unless it's not NASCAR or touring car racing. You know, it's there's far too many corners for these drivers to be that close on. And I think with the toe, that's going to open up so many opportunities. And like you said, if somebody makes a mistake, and you know there's 7 drivers within 2/10 of each other, then they are going to lose all the way back to the back of that train in a race. And you know, practice is one thing, getting a quick lap out of it, qualifying is one thing, and everything like that. And then you've got to go in and actually race, completely different kettle of fish. It's, you know, overtaking, race awareness, you know, knowing what the other driver's going to do, maybe reading where there may be a crash. It completely changes once you actually jump into the thick of it and those lights go out. But with any luck, we'll be keeping it slightly more clean than maybe the MX-5s have got history of. Oh, as I say, that Michael Ellett goes for a spin.
Let's hope so. You could see they Ellett just lighting up the rear. Good avoidance by the H20 machine. Now, just looking over on the left-hand side of the screen, the top 19, almost the top 20, separated by only 1 second, and on what a 3.2 kilometre circuit, just under 2 miles of tarmac. And it's such a changeable circuit. There's so many different lines, so many different braking points. You can decide to carry the momentum through the corner or brake as late as possible and then get your foot down. And there's so many different driving styles that can be utilised around here as the practice session just flicks over and we head into the qualifying session. To be that close just in the practice session is amazing, and it's only going to get closer. Qualifying session, I can imagine top 20 easily within a second of the pole time, and the race when everybody's starting at pretty much the same part of the circuit, and of course there's very little room to manoeuvre on the first couple of laps. You can see 3 wide out the pit lane, Jacko. It's going to be one hell of a race.
Well, they're already starting, aren't they? Somebody should remind them it's not a Le Mans start. They are just going into qualifying here this evening. But there was, I mean, we were talking about how close it was, obviously, but there was a distinct gap right at the front of the field. Roberto Garcia Campos was one of those drivers, a Hispania racing car. He was right at the front with the iRacing Netherlands machine, and there was about a 3/10 gap. And if you keep in mind that 3/10 covered about 5th down to 21st or something, you know, that's a big gap. It's an appreciative gap here at Summit Point. So I would imagine if you're going on practice and everything like that, you would probably see the likes of Roberto Garcia and the two Borsts as the sort of top 3 shootout, and then it's almost the best of the rest, isn't it? I think Dan Mould was in 4th. He was looking fairly quick, but he didn't quite have the legs to try and push those top 3. Qualifying, maybe see a different story. We do only have about 15 minutes. I think it's 10 minutes of qualifying even, so it's not a long lap, but equally it's not a long qualifying. So as we see a puff of smoke there by one of the iRacing Netherlands team, you can't be doing that and wasting a lap, can you? That could be another 2 laps that he misses out on, 2 flying laps compared to his rivals.
Yeah, it could be indeed. I think that was Sander Borst that found himself in the gravel in the background. A H20 car with a big old moment through that final corner. I'll just have a look over to see who it was. It could have been possibly Henrico Buttenstein that fell foul of that one. And we're starting to see a few laps posted. These, of course, being banker laps. Dan Mould currently on provisional pole position, 7/10 clear, or 1:25.065. That will undoubtedly be beaten. There's still about 4 seconds out there once you get yourself on a flying lap, but that's something we've got to mention. You can hear rubbing and racing in the background. It's congested. It's a very congested 2 miles of tarmac, and with how many cars have we got out on circuit? We're pushing 35 cars all out there trying to find as much free air as possible, and then trying to find the lap time through that. It's going to be an incredibly busy 10-minute qualifying session, and you can already see we're a quarter of the way through it, and only a few drivers have really got banker laps in. So at this point, you've got to make sure you play your cards right. You want to make sure you maximize the draft, but then also maximize the clean air, depending on what you're quicker in. You don't want to get somebody pushing you around the circuit, because that's a little bit of pressure. If they overtake you, it can compromise both your laps. And going into what is a 20-lap race, I believe, or 30 minutes, whichever comes first, qualifying is going to be so key to this. And you see Dan Mould, and more importantly, Roberto Garcia playing this directly into his hands. He knows the car in front of him is slightly quicker. Roberto Garcia, he's got 2 very quick drivers in front of him. Of course, the iRacing Netherlands machine of Sander Borst, I believe, crossing the line now. Then with Dan Mould, Sander Borst goes to the top of the time to 1:24.313. Roberto Garcia goes even quicker, and Joseph Keaveney shows us how it's done. And then, you know what, before I can even slow down, Dean Catherwood, and they're side by side and into each other, in towards the gravel. And with 3.5 minutes of the session gone, you've got to make sure you get to the pit lane, get an out lap, and then get a flying lap. So it could be tight for the top runners.
Yeah, I don't normally do replays in qualifying, but I feel like this one deserves it, because that was a touch foolish there, Jack, wasn't it? I mean, 3 wide into the first corner. I get it, trying to utilise the slipstream that they had going on, but it's not necessarily the best way to put a clean lap in. All of a sudden, those 3 drivers have to get into the pits, like you said, and then they have to get out there, warm their tyres up again, because we've seen the first lap that these drivers post, it's about 4 seconds slower than their actual fast lap, which Kavisto, Elliott, Catherwood, and Brown and all them have shown us. So all of a sudden, 6 minutes left, and they've just wasted a huge opportunity. These guys, I would estimate, would probably only get 1 full flying lap, and with traffic, that is really difficult. And there we go, all of a sudden, Dan Mould pushing it a little bit too hard on his warm-up lap, on his out lap, goes into the gravel, and, he hasn't ruined his tyres, shall we say, but he could have really potentially hurt himself, and he does that. If he does that on his flying lap, when he's really trying to push the limit, he will be in big trouble come the actual race. Looking at a few drivers, Michael Elliott, we saw, obviously, he was leading that 5th to 12th place battle at 0.2 of a second. Well, he's doing better than 5th place at the moment. He's in 2nd, but as they cross the line, we're about to see, there we go, the order's going to shuffle again. It's a 1:22.017 for Elliott, but it's a 1:21.6 for Louis Correa, who has just put it on provisional pole position for now, and the fast cars go bang. Hopefully his car won't be going bang by the end of this qualifying, because it looks like he's got some fantastic pace underneath his MX-5.
It does indeed. He's found another gear at this point. It's put him over 2/10 clear of previous pole sitter Kalle Kavisto and SRL. His SRL teammate Michael Elliott is still sat there in provisional P3. Dean Catherwood, he's been up at the top of the times for Simtech Racing, now down in 4th place. I'm just looking to see who's posting quick time. Scotty Angelo seems to be on a fairly quick lap. You can see there Patrick Bors posting a personal best, promoting himself up into provisional P4. 1:22.139 posted for him and the drivers we've still got out and circulating. I think Scotty Angelo is going to be the next one to cross the line and really set the world alight. Sander Bohr setting personal best sectors throughout, none of them purple, however. So he's got to really find something on these next couple of laps if he wants to be in with a chance of that pole position up at the top. He crosses the line now. Does he improve? He does. A 121.890 posted up into provisional P3. Here is Scotty Angelo. He's set very quick sectors. Does this lap count? I think he might have had a little off track there, and what was an incredibly quick lap and shaping up to be almost a pole time, he's throwing it away as Michael Elliott improves furthermore.
Yeah, Elliott goes up to third place. Kavisto is on his outlap, so he's confident that he can get some new tyres on the car and get flying out there before too long. Arell's got promoted himself into 6th position. Just having a look at one of the drivers who obviously we have to keep an eye on, because I can't find them now, as I was saying about. Where is Roberto Garcia Campos? There he is. Now all the way down in 29th position. Now we need to keep an eye on him, because it's not going to be 29th position if he can keep the lap times clean, is it, Jack? And as he rounds out the corner, it doesn't look like he's going to improve this time round, but he could be going on to a flying lap. And I just want to take a quick onboard with the man himself, Roberto Campos, as he sets himself up to a flying lap, just to get an idea of what Summit Point's track is really like heading down towards the first corner. Pick your braking zone by using the cones on the left-hand side. Apex nice and late to try and get a good drive off, but I don't think that was the best drive from Roberto Campos, who is up to 17th position, now all the way down, now down to 18th. Keep it to the right-hand side. Use a little bit of the road on the right to try and open up the left-hand side. Don't run too wide, because you don't want to end up like Dan Mould in that kitty litter, because that will really ruin your run. And these cars are all about momentum. Use a bit of the track on the left there to open up the right hand. A nice little late apex. Take a little bit of curb there if you can. Nice and late down into the sharp hairpin, one of the slower portions of this entire circuit. Keep it to the right for probably the slowest portion of the entire circuit. Now you've got a couple of S's coming your way in the right, and then fast left, and then another fast right until you're onto the final corner. This one's probably one of the key corners on the entire track, because you don't want to launch yourself over the curb there and ruin the run down into the right-hander, because you will end up probably having an MX-5 launch itself up the inside of you. Nice and early, not too much curb to run there, but you can run really wide onto the exit of the final corner and try and get the best run as possible and hunker up behind a car in front. Roberto Campos has set a purple sector 2. What's he got in the bag here? It's up to 12th, and that is all.
Yeah, I've got to say, I was expecting a hell of a lot more from Roberto Garcia. He does have time for one more timed lap. However, traffic may slightly start to play a part, because he is getting closer and closer to the cars ahead. As usual, the SimTech Racing guys are all helping each other round this circuit. There's an Ignium Motorsport car in on the mix as well. Let's have a quick look over to see who that is. Patrick Borst improves yet further, a 121.907 posted for himself. Scotty Angelo doesn't improve. Xavier Lopez does, but look at that, Matt Tempest right the way up into provisional P9, a 122.243. Sander Werrell follows suit, and one of the SimTech cars destined for the paddock, I believe, as he throws it off towards the left-hand side of the circuit. And here is Sander Werrell up in provisional P8, so 122.14 posted after a purple sector 3. Roberto Garcia still holding that purple sector 2. However, he has improved upon his personal best sector 1. So we could end up with a new pole sitter at the end of this lap if he can keep it under control. But look at that H20 car off on the left. Everybody pushing the limits. That has very slightly compromised him. He had to put a bit of steering lock in. But as he comes towards the final corner now, Jacko, what do you think we'll see from him?
Well, it needs to be a quicker one than he was putting in before. He hasn't set any purple sectors, but he has set green, so that's probably good enough in his eyes to at least move him up to the top 10. He's in 14th place at the moment. He's going to come across the line, and where is he going to put him? It's up to 7th place, 122.096. Again, for his own personal high standards, probably not where he needs or wants to be, considering his probably two main rivals that he saw in practice, Sander Borst and Patrick Borst, are 4th and 5th at the moment. But I tell you what, Louis Correa, Cali Cavisto and Michael Elliott for the top 3, well, I didn't call that one, and fair play to them. They're doing a fantastic job at the top end there. As the checkered flag has now dropped, there's not many drivers that can dispossess them with that top 3 position.
No, it doesn't seem like there's going to be anything thrown his way. Roberto Garcia once again setting a personal best sector 1. Here is Amanol Abacus. Last time through, he set a personal best sector 2. this time not so fortunate through sector 1. We'll see in a few moments time what he can do through the second sector of the circuit. Sebastian Hain improving, Dave Geddes improving once again. No positions changed for them, however, which shows just the fine little margins that the drivers are having to find in this qualifying session. We're going to stick with Amanullah Bacchus. Dan Mould goes up to provisional P9 at 122.133. Look at that 3 wide in towards the final corner. Everybody's getting closer and closer together. Amanullah Bacchus currently in provisional P16 in his number 28 fast cars go bang machine. We've got a car backwards in the middle of the road. Let's hope he doesn't pile a lock on. Thankfully, he does steer the car off to the side of the road. Amanullah Bacchus coming towards the line now. I don't think it'll be an improvement. Roberto Garcia further improves, a 121.910 posted for himself. And it looks like the pole time, Jacko, is going to be from Louis Carrera, 121.611, 2/10 clear of Calle Cavisto.
Yeah, really good lap from him there, and everybody has now pretty much finished their qualifying lap. There's not many people that can attempt to improve on any of that. The people that we're sort of waiting for are not necessarily. Although having said that, David Geddes looked like he's trying to push his car, isn't he? And he hasn't quite finished his 8th lap yet. So let's have a look and see how Geddes gets involved. Can he crack further into the top 15? He doesn't look like he's improved all that much, and in fact, he's coming into the pits. So we will try and shoot to a different looking shot. And, well, think about maybe what we've got coming up for us this evening then. It's going to be a Louis Correa pole position, isn't it? And a driver that is not necessarily seen that much right at the sharp end this year.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some very good performances from himself, and I'm sure he'll try and follow up with that this evening. It's just that consistency which he seems to struggle with. But then with, 13 nationalities on the grid and a raft of cars at every single round, you are always going to struggle. But Louis Correa takes pole position here this evening for round 5 at Summit Point, a 121.611 the pole time. Calle Cavisto alongside. Michael Elliott and Sander Borst make up row 2. Patrick Borst as Roberto Garcia Campos for company on row 3. Then it's Stephen Arell, Scotty Angelo, Dan Mould, Sander Ware rounds out your top 10. Dean Catherwood in 11th. Matt Tempest starts in 12th. Then it's Rob Jackson, Joseph Kiveni, Dave Geddes, Amanullah Bacchus, John Brown, Xavi Lopez, Enrico Buttenstein, Ben Hicks, Pedro Marimon Cladera, Eordnin Svetanov, Sebastian Hain, and James Austin in 24th. Then we have Sven Dalemans, Rene Ware, Neil Armstrong, Dirk Reski, Timo Paya, Juan Benavides, Jason Guara, Mackenzie Mann, Arturo De Villa, and Robert van den Heuvel rounds out your grid right the way down in 34th place, evidently not finding that clean lap in quali.
Very impressive speed of which you read those names out there, Jack. I have to say, it's looking like a full grid and a very diverse grid as well we've got here for the Sunday MX-5 Cup. One of the reasons why we obviously love it to pieces. Another one of which is because of the fantastic racing. Now, Calle Cavisto, I remember at Silverstone, had a good qualifying and looked like a strong race pace, but unfortunately, racecraft let them down from memory. So let's see what they can sort of muster up here. But Simulation Racing Leagues, 2nd and 3rd, iRacing Netherlands, 4th and 5th, and the lights are about to come on, Jack.
Yeah, so as the lights come on now, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights here at Summit Point, and we're already away. A very four machine of Michael Elliott gets a great start alongside his teammate. He'll be looking to get past his teammate Calle Cavisto as soon as he can. Louis Correa still leading the way. Look at that, 3, 4 wide almost in the background. Everybody chopping and changing as they're diving towards turn 1, seeing who can find the space. A little look up the inside from Michael Elliott, and who's that making contact with him? That's Roberto Garcia. Calle Cavisto goes very deep into the corner, but he might maybe get the overlap around the outside. He's carried the momentum. It'll be the inside for the next uphill left-hander. Sander Borst has got to choose which lane he's going to, and I think he's just sitting in the middle, seeing what happens. He's got his teammate Patrick Borst playing rear gunner at the moment, and Louis Correa manages to hold that position, hold that lead around the outside. Now Calle Cavisto in 2nd, under pressure from Sander Borst. Patrick Borst was watching along, still with Michael Elliott behind. Dan Mould, Premium Motorsport, sat there in 6th place, and then we get back to Steve Arell. Roberto Garcia right the way down in 8th place. Not a great start from himself.
Now, Dan Mould up 3 positions, though, into 6th, like you mentioned, the Ignia Motorsport driver, obviously having a decent start. Probably not too pleased with where they qualified. Having said that, though, Roberto Garcia Campos, a driver we focused on a lot in qualifying, purely because of the pace that they showed in practice, lost 2 positions and now down to 8th place. So as a few of the drivers are making contact, Ben Hicks has gone off the track. Juan Benavides has gone off the track as well, and Svetanov unfortunately came off the track and has rejoined. There's plenty of action all up and down the field, lending itself to a few of the drivers, but we're keeping on board with Dan Mould as he sizes up Michael Elliott. Sander Bourse has gone into the race lead as well, and there's going to be some chopping and changing here. Cavisto looks like he's going to try and sniff a second place out of Louis Correa. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to work for him though, as Patrick Bourse defends from Dan Mould, who did get past Michael Elliott even before they hit the braking zone. But it looks like Mould's going to be on the inside for the iRacing Netherlands driver to try and fly it around the outside. But it's his teammate Sander who's in the race lead.
It is indeed, and once again we're seeing Louis Correa and Calais Cavisto go door to door, trading a bit of paint on the way through, and somehow, through Louis Correa's misfortune, Calais Cavisto has worked his way through, so has Dan Mould, elbowing that door back open as Louis Correa tried to close it, and he's gone from first to fourth in just one lap there, Louis Correa, and now he's got Patrick Bourse all over his case, trying to push him through sector 2 of the circuit. Look at that, Roberto Garcia not taking any prisoners there, throwing it up the inside of Michael Elliott. Dean Catherwood watching along with Stephen Arel, Sander Ware and Scotty Angelo all taking part, trying to follow company through this section of the circuit. Very much a one-way affair at the moment, but it is, like you say, Jacko, Sander Bourse in the lead, Calais Cavisto in second, Dan Mould in third, Louis Correa has been demoted right the way down into fourth place, and we're slowly starting to see a few packs form up and down the order. Here is Neil Armstrong under pressure from, I think, Sven Dalemans and Holy Cow Racing, and you can see there his teammate also for Armstrong Racing, James Austin, side by side through the final corner with Sven Dalemans, and I think he got the better of him that time through. But look at that, Sander Bourse 3/10 quicker than the car behind last time through, so he's really put his foot down. Sven Dalemans still trying to get past James Austin, and I only think this will be decided on the break. So as we head towards the tight right-hander of turn 1, very much a long hairpin, in fact, it opens up slowly as we get to the exit. That's a Simtech car, very decisive up the inside. I think that was Jason Guara getting past Pedro Marimon Cladera and Rene Webb, both in towards turn 1, and you can see everybody is still side by side. There's really nothing to pick between them.
There isn't indeed, yeah, and as I was saying before, realistically, we focus a lot on the top drivers here in the broadcast, but we got to give a shout out to these guys as well. I jumped down here because, oh no, there's a big crash as well, and who is that? I think it's John Brown who's looking the wrong way in the Ignia Motorsport car. He's gotten back going now, but unfortunately for John Brown, this may have finished his right a little bit early as the Hispania racing car, Pedro Marimon Cladera, goes up to 20th position. There's a little bit of damage on Sven Dalemans' Holy Cow Racing machine now.
Yeah, Sven Dalemans carrying that damage back up towards the front end of affairs we go, looking at Dean Catherwood now surrounded by cars, and here is Calais Cavisto. While he has got his attentions focused on Dan Mould in the background, Sander Bourse is just literally letting the tabs open and disappearing to the distance, almost 1.5 seconds clear now. Dan Mould on the inside heading towards turn 1. What can he do on the brakes? He sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:21.873. That would have been incredibly competitive in qualifying, let alone the race in towards turn 1. It's going to be last of the late breakers. Calais Cavisto later on the brakes. Does he wash out as soon as he grabs the apex? And I think Dan Mould has got that position made, but we've seen Calais defend in towards this next turn of turn 3, the uphill left-hander. Look at them getting closer and closer together. What can Calais do on the brakes? Slight brakes down a gear possibly, and then up through the left-hander we go, and Calais Cavisto does remain on that position, but look at the car in the background using all of the circuit. That's Roberto Garcia, and he is in hot pursuit of that top 3.
Yeah, only 2 drivers on the entire grid who have not changed positions technically from their grid, and in fact that's just gone down to 1 as Dan Mould slides at the inside to dispossess Calais Cavisto of his second place, in which he gained in qualifying. Sander Ware now the only driver to have retained his starting grid position in 10th place, as Cavisto, well, it looked like he didn't quite have the legs on Dan Mould, did he? Who's absolutely flying, 7 positions gained up to 7th place. And like you said before, Sander Bourse has waved goodbye, hasn't he? And he has flown off. What can Dan Mould do about it, as Roberto Garcia Campos looks up the inside of the iRacing Netherlands teammate? Doesn't quite get it done, does he, though? He was sliding all over the apex there. A little bit of a lockup by the iRacing Netherlands car, and I think we may well see what you said before, Jack, about Garcia. Unfortunately, you make one mistake, you lose 5 places, and he's been overtaken by Elliott, he's been overtaken by Louis Correa, and he's being swarmed all over the place.
Yeah, that one little mistake he had, maybe a slightly optimistic move up the inside of Patrick Bourse, and that's what 3-4 cars involved. The number 5 H20 machine of Sander Ware involved, Dean Catherwood, and I think Michael Elliott was all mixed up in that. One car tagged the other, the domino effect occurred, and there you go. So let's see what happened. Looking at Michael Elliott, he just runs out of road, lifts off, and to Dean Catherwood's surprise, he can't quite get it slowed down, and then Sander Ware just piles in after he ran out of road. And speaking of running out of road, Roberto Garcia pushing the limits. Is he going to get that slowed down sideways on the brakes? A great cutback from Luis Correa. Read the situation perfectly. However, it will be the outside for the next right-hander. He will be left vulnerable to Stephen Arell in the Holy Cow Racing number 68 machine, and look at them side by side in the background. But Roberto Garcia, after letting that accident happen in front of him at turn 1, he's managed to find the flow once again. He is up into the top 5. Patrick Borst will be the next target, but look at him now. He is chasing down Kalle Kavisto, and Dan Mould is making good his escape. However, 2.2 seconds clear at the front is Sander Borst.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to watch this one again. It's Roberto Garcia's overtake there. He goes around the outside, doesn't make it stick, because you can't really make it stick around the outside, but then he locks the brake up, snaps it, catches it, drives around the outside, and then is on the inside for the next one. I'll tell you what, if that's not move of the day, I'm very much looking forward to the next 20 minutes, because that is absolutely stunning there by Roberto Campos.
Yeah, no idea how he managed to stop that. Chaz Draycott in the chat saying, how did he stop that? Believe me, we have no idea. Clearly found some extra Brembo pads sat just in his glove box, chucked them in, and there you go. The braking performance just appeared there. Dan Mould still here in second place, but look at that. He's managed to very slightly shake off the attentions of the Finn Kalle Kavisto in his rearview mirror, which does mean he can start lining his sights up. There's contact between, who's that? That's Stephen Arell and Luis Correa, I think. Stephen was on the inside, Luis Correa was on the outside, and they just made contact at the apex, and Luis Correa left stranded in the middle of the road. Joseph Kivini, I hope he didn't get caught up in that. He's saying he's had a bit of an incident. Let's see what happens. So here is Luis Correa. Stephen Arell very late on the brakes, dives up the inside and into the door of Luis Correa. And for me, after only seeing it once, I can't really apportion blame, but initially I would say Stephen Arell fairly optimistic on the brakes, and Luis Correa trying to do the right thing, making sure he can stay out of the way, doesn't rejoin in front of anybody else. Here we see from another camera angle, and look at that, Stephen Arell very late on the brakes. There was an overlap, but that was quite a late move in towards that hairpin. We know it's heavy braking zone, and let's hope Luis Correa can continue on. And there we go, in the Fast Cars Go Bang machine, currently right the way down in 21st place is the number 1 machine, but he is still out and continuing. The Ignia Motorsport car of John Brown up the road, looking rather second hand, and as per usual, we're seeing Mazda MX-5s missing wing mirrors, and I'm sure by the end of the race we might have a chance of being able to make one clean Mazda MX-5 out of what we can get from the rest of the grid.
Yeah, I think Luis Correa has been shopping at B&Q online, hasn't he? Because Stephen Arell delivered him a little tap there. It's a bit of a shame to end the race early for them, but he's hopefully got back going and have a good rest of the race, that's for sure. And they're looking down now in the 17th, 18th, 19th position, because as I said before, there's just battles all over the place. You can't keep your eyes off it. And there's a train forming quite nicely here, isn't there? Involving Svetanov, Mackenzie Mann, Dirk Reski and Puttenstein as well, and this is what we're on about with the MX-5s. It doesn't really matter if you're not fighting for the race lead as long as you have a good time. That's what these cars are all about, and that is exactly what we're seeing, isn't it? As Svetanov goes through on Mackenzie Mann, and Dirk Reski, and it looked like Dirk was going to have a little bit of a launch up the inside. One driver who's probably thinking of having a little bit of a launch up the inside is Patrick Borst, chasing down Kalle Kavisto. Dan Mould done what Sander Borst did earlier on in the race and waved goodbye to the rest of the field. So it looks like this is the fight for third place, and it might be the hottest little battle that we have in the top 5 at the moment.
Yeah, you can see there Roberto Garcia setting the fastest lap. He is in the clean air. Patrick Borst and Kalle Kavisto will be battling away, so they'll be slowing each other down. So there's 2 more positions for the taking, and that will be a podium place for Roberto Garcia if he manages to pull it off. But with all this battling, and while Dan Mould is just disappearing into the distance, he is winding in the leader. 1.3 seconds, that lead gap to Patrick Borst now. So those two are only getting closer. And who are we looking at now? This is Dave Geddes for the 2G Parts and Equipment Racing. The number 17 Mazda, the Canadian, under pressure here from Matt Tempest in the Simtech Racing machine on the left-hand side of your screen, up towards turn 3, the uphill left-hander. What can Matt Tempest do around the outside? Can he carry the superior momentum? It will minimise Dave Geddes' run, and it looks like he's managed to make that work. But also going through, I think, there is Xavi Lopez. It is indeed, and Dave Geddes, he loses 2 positions in the space of 1 corner, so he's only going backwards from there. But he is back into 15th, which is exactly where he started. But from here, he can really monitor the cars in front and possibly just follow them through any traffic that they see. But he can't afford to slow down too much, because Mackenzie Mann, Jordan Svetanov, Dirk Reski and Henrico Puttenstein, as you previously mentioned, all hot on the case. Mackenzie Mann up 16 positions and looking to make it more.
He is indeed, yeah. You got to keep an eye out on these drivers who are just absolutely getting positions. It not necessarily meaning that they're overtaking 15 cars for lunging up the inside or anything like that, but it's just avoiding contact, avoiding crashes, which is a huge part. However, a huge part is launching themselves at the inside, as Patrick Borst is doing exactly that. Kelly Gavisto tries to get the cutback and done it well, he has. Around the outside, a defensive move potentially here, but Roberto Garcia is the man, licking his lips and smelling blood like a shark in water. He's looking up the inside now as the two cars force each other wide. There's a little bit of contact. Garcia goes through on Kelly Gavisto, who's dropped down from 3rd place down into 5th. Patrick Borst makes it 2 of the iRacing Netherlands cars in the top 3. Dan Mould being the sandwich of that Netherlands sandwich. And it looks like Garcia isn't done there though, is he? He wants this 3rd place for himself. He's not happy with how he qualified. He wants to extend his championship lead while Chaz Draycott is not driving for us this weekend. And let's see what he can do up the inside. It's a big lunge, isn't it? He's had to carry that momentum, and he's just about kept it on the circuit as well, but it's going to be very difficult down into the final corner, defending on the inside. You got a long run into the first corner after this one, so if you don't quite get the racing line, it's going to be very detrimental. He could see himself fall down to 5th purely because he's trying to defend. And as he goes to the inside now, the toe will come into effect, Jack, and it's going to be dangerous waters for the Hispania racing driver.
It will be indeed. You can see him going defensive. You can see Scotty Angelo in the background kicking up all kinds of dirt and dust from that gravel trap. And Patrick Borst around the outside. He had a little look, but decided maybe this time isn't going to be the time for him to get through. But now he's got to worry about Kelly Gavisto in his rearview mirror, who's also just managed to work his way past, I think that was the number 5 H20 machine of Sander Ware, now a lap down on the lead battle. Stephen Arell still yet to get past that H20 machine, but look what Roberto Garcia has done. He's done exactly what Dan Mould did. He got past the battling pair, and he's disappeared into the distance. And while Patrick Borst and Kelly Gavisto are busy fighting each other, I can only see them going backwards at this point. So they've really got to book their ideas up and decide what they're going to do about once again raining havoc up at that top 3. But it is now the top 3 of Sander Borst, Roberto Garcia, or Sander Borst, Dan Mould, then Roberto Garcia, are only going to push forward. That lead gap now within half a second. Dan Mould really starting to turn the pressure on up at the top end of affairs. And like you say, not 100% happy with his qualifying, up 7 positions, looking to make it 8 and looking to get into the lead.
4.7 seconds the gap though for Roberto to try and make up. We are only halfway through this race, so there is every opportunity that we could see him maybe join the fight here, but it's a big ask, and these drivers are far too experienced to know that if they start falling over each other at the halfway stage and open it up for the race with the guys behind, it would be foolish. So I imagine, well, I'd hope that they'd calm down slightly so they can get a good race between each other towards the end of the race and not right now in the sort of mid-race sort of area. Gavisto, though, he seems to be the cork in the bottle, doesn't he, at the moment? If you get past him and get half a second gap, you can disappear into the distance. And although he qualified extremely well in 2nd place, doesn't seem, a little bit like Silverstone, doesn't seem that he's quite got the race pace. Maybe he hasn't quite got the setup in the car to take him throughout the race. Or maybe he's just seems to maybe lose his head a little bit as we get into sort of slightly tighter battles, and those maybe gets a bit conscious about not wanting to lose the race completely by making contact, or I'm not entirely sure, but he seems to be just dropping a little bit further back, doesn't he, with each and every lap.
It seems that way. You can see there a slight bit of stricken damage left on the circuit, and who's that going off the road? Is that Juan Benavides going for a bit of an off-track excursion? Here is Juan, and he's going round on the gravel, and does he over-rotate the car, and then stricken in the middle of the road, does get grabbed by the H20 machine with damage aboard that Mazda MX-5. That will be why we saw the smoke and the stricken piece of bodywork sat there in the middle of the road. But look at this now, Sander Borst really starting to get mounted a challenge by Dan Mould. 1/10 back. He just has a little look at going defensive. They are side by side. However, we've seen this before, and what can Dan Mould do with the cutback? He looks for it. He is on the inside, but that will turn into the outside for turn 3, Jacko, and I can only see the pair of them getting closer. It's still Sander Borst in the lead on the timing screen, albeit by what, 1,000th of a second. And now Sander Borst grabs the apex and stays in front, and then it's very much a one-way affair through sector 2 and the start of sector 3. If we get back round to turn 1 and they are still in this order, I will be very, very surprised.
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly not listening to me, are they? They don't have the stream up watching it or listening, because I said they'd be doing well to try and maybe pull away from Roberto Campos, but clearly Dan Mold thinks that he should be the driver to lead that charge away from the Hispania Racing machine. But the more they do this, the more they're going to hold each other up, and they've already lost half a second. It's now 4.1 seconds back to Roberto Campos, and they've only been fighting for one lap. And like you said, if they get into the first corner in this order, we would all be amazed, I think. 2/10 between them as they go into the final corner. It's a nice little clip at the apex there, to be fair, by the iRacing Netherlands team of Sander Boers. He seems to have got a good run out, and he's not looking defensive immediately, is he, Jack? He's sort of going mid-corner, trying to keep his options open. If he can take the optimal racing line, he will choose to do that, and he knows that Dan is a better driver than to launch it out of nowhere, but it looks like that Dan's going to be going that anyway, and the iRacing car has gone slightly wider. Sander not quite getting the confidence to take the apex, but Dan just putting him offline, didn't he? He wasn't necessarily diving completely up the inside for race position. Just trying to make Sander look in his rearview mirrors, trying to put him off. No, I'm there. I'm going to come for you, Sander. That's what Dan Mold's thinking.
Yeah, definitely, and I've got to say, great racecraft from the pair of them. They didn't make contact at any point, even more so from Sander Boers, however. He did everything he needed to do out of that final corner. Look at this now, Dan Mold decisive up the inside, not giving him a choice, and Dan Mold is into the lead ahead of Sander Boers. A great move later on the brakes, gets in front, and now we're having a good little look at the front bumper and even a bit of the intercooler from the back of Dan Mold. It shows just how close that these Master MX-5s can get without really hindering each other. And Dan Mold, what a move. Sander Boers did everything he could to defend in towards turn 1, and I think Dan Mold thought, well, you can do what you want to turn 1, but I'm going to get you in towards sector 2, and that is exactly what he did. Hard on the brakes, up the inside, but now look, the roles have been reversed. Here is the move once again from a different camera angle, up the inside, later on the brakes, and make sure that he makes the decision. He doesn't leave Sander Boers any sort of room to manoeuvre, and make sure that he can get that move done. But now in towards the hairpin we go once again, riding on board with Dan Mold, later on the brakes and up the inside, grabs the apex, and that is position secured. We're going to have to go back as they have just changed position once again. Sander Boers on the outside. What can you do about carrying that momentum? Dan Mold on the inside squeezes him towards the apex, does Sander, and I think there's a chance he could keep that. However, Dan Mold does get the slightly better run of the pair coming out of the corner. However, Sander Boers will be on the inside for the next left-hander. And once again, the lead has swapped back over, but the gap behind them has come down by a full second now. Roberto Garcia Campos, 3.2 seconds adrift, and with, 6 laps of the race remaining, I think we might just pip the half an hour time limit on this race. But Roberto Garcia, he's running out of time, but he is also reeling the lead duo in, and it could end up within the next couple of laps being 3 for the lead. Still Sander Boers leading the way, Dan Mold in second, Roberto Garcia in hot pursuit.
Yeah, the problem that these two drivers have as well is not necessarily just Roberto Campos, because he's dragging Patrick Boers and Kelly Cavisto along with him as well. And, well, we've seen how much these guys are holding each other up as Dan Mold looks to the inside yet again. Sander is looking just to stick his car in the middle of the road. Now he's taking the optimal racing line, but he's going to lose the race lead. But he knows full well that if he can get that late apex, he'll get a good run. And the Ignia Motorsport driver may be a sitting duck as they go towards the first corner. But again, we're seeing the times fall away. 2.4 second gap. You can see visually just how tight it's going to be come the next 5 laps as Sander goes to the outside the Ignium car, gives a little shake of the booty, says no thank you, I'm not here to be overtaken around the outside, but that doesn't stop the cutback from Sander Boers. Dan Mold defending, it's the inside for the third corner, and it looks like, there we go, Garcia is already catching up, and as I said, he's dragging people with him. Can Boers try and fly around the outside? It's so difficult not to run into the kitty litter there. But look at Campos' attitude there. The car is just absolutely on rails, but he's throwing it about as quickly as possible. Dan Mold finally gets the race lead. There's a late break by Sander Boers, but he doesn't go into the back of him. What can Dan do now? Can he get away as Garcia tries to put the pressure on Boers?
Yeah, it seems like that is the case. Dan Mold trying to make good his escape, runs slightly wide there, chops across the nose of Sander Boers. The brake lights having to illuminate there as he jumps on the anchors, trying to avoid any sort of contact, and that's the last thing you want. But they've slowed each other down so much that it's within a second their gap. So in theory, it's gone from 2 for the lead into almost towards 5 for the lead at this point. And Dan Mold is in question up at the front. Sander Boers following along. Roberto Garcia still sat in the wheel tracks trying to follow on as we head on to lap 16 of the race now. And I said in a couple of laps, keep an eye on Roberto Garcia, and he's proved me right here. He's really starting to get close up on this lead battle, but look who he's left stricken in the background. Patrick Borst and Kalle Kavisto slightly battling away. That's the last thing they want now. I'm sure Patrick Borst can see his teammate under pressure here from in front, and while he's trying to get back to the lead, Patrick Borst, all he wants to do, get in front and assist his teammate. Looking forward from Roberto Garcia now, up into 4th gear we go, almost 160 kilometers an hour in towards this next left-hander on the brakes. And you do hold 4th gear through here, so holding that momentum, not the greatest run from Roberto Garcia, but it's still Sander Borst all over the tail end of Dan Mold. And with only, what, 3.5 laps remaining now, Dan Mold has got all the work in the world cut out for him. He goes defensive, but while he's going defensive, it means he slows down on the apex. He can't carry the momentum, and Roberto Garcia's got all the track in the world to use without anybody really pressuring him into any sort of mistakes at the moment. You can see the differing lines between the top 3, and Roberto Garcia, best seats in the house. He could just sit here and watch, maybe wait for that inevitable accident from one of the drivers, maybe just a slight slip up here and there, but he's not got much time to make this move, Jacko. 3 laps of the race remaining.
Yeah, well, he's left Patrick Borst as Dan Mold has now had to subside potentially the position. But here we go. Roberto Campos getting a good run around the outside, but there's contact out the last corner. Just about hold it between the two of them. Dan Mold seeing that, is licking his lips, but all of a sudden he's now got the Hispania bright green racing machine right in his rear view mirror. He goes to the outside. Roberto Campos trying to throw it. It looks like the iRacing Netherlands machine is looking at the inside, but there's contact, and it is going to go the way of Dan Mold for now after the contact with Roberto Campos. After he worked so hard, he's off the circuit, and it was always going to end in tears with 3 people potentially going for the same apex, as he's now trying to defend from Stephen Orell in 5th place. But it is still Dan Mold ahead of Sander Borst, Patrick Borst and Kalle Kavisto.
Yeah, so Dan Mold really coming out of that one on top of the incident. Both cars just almost magneting together there, door-to-door contact, and it just flicked the way of Dan Mold as Roberto Garcia got flicked towards the gravel, flicked towards the scenery. However, he does continue on, like you say, trying to defend from Stephen Orell. He does so successfully, but it's still Dan Mold in the lead. And look at that, Sander Borst pushing him around that tight right-hander through the S's we go once again. Only 2 corners left of this lap, and now we go on towards what the 3-lap remaining mark. We've got, of course, 18, 19 and 20 still to go if we do stay below the time limit. And it's still Dan Mold in the lead with Sander Borst in 2nd. But now, more importantly, Jacko, Sander Borst has protection. There is Patrick Borst in 3rd place. He can decide whether he wants to fend off Kalle Kavisto or help his teammate get that lead. And look at this now, Sander Borst, he's on the inside in towards turn 1. And if I was Patrick Borst, I'd be trying to get tucked underneath the rear bumper of Sander Borst to push him through, maybe give him a little bit of a bump in towards turn 1 just to get that overlap. And he's almost trying to look 3 wide here. And if he can fit through the same gap as his teammate, iRacing Netherlands would really come out on top of this. But look at this now, Sander Borst on the inside, elbowing Dan Mold out towards the exit of the circuit, and now it's Sander Borst in the lead, Dan Mold 2nd, Patrick Borst just about in 3rd, as Kalle Kavisto is giving it everything he got to try and get on that podium. Roberto Garcia left without much to do in the background now.
I'll tell you what, if you're trying to guess who is the winner of this race in 3 laps' time, you're a braver man than I am, because I would have probably said Roberto Campos a couple of laps ago, but it's obviously not going to be the case, as Sander is now defending from Dan. I tell you what, there's a very defensive line, isn't it? These guys know that there's going to be no quarter given now. It's all or nothing. Get yourself to the white line, hit the brakes hard, and make sure you're trying to send the driver at least around the outside. Make him work for that position. Make him work for it. It's a bit of a shame, really, because there's up and down the field. You can see the timing down the left-hand side that there's plenty of action going on, but I don't think anybody can deny the fact that we need to be keeping an eye on this lead battle, because it is absolutely stunning. Kalle Kavisto looks like he's going to go and try up the inside of Patrick Borst, but no, nothing happening just yet. It'd be the smarter move to go into the first corner and then challenge for that position, as I'm sure Dan Mold is thinking that as well. But it looks like Sander Borst has got a pretty decent run at the final corner. Let's see if he can just about finally hold on to that race lead for more than about 3 corners.
Yeah, it seems like you can hold on to it, not for a lap, but just for a couple of corners. Look at this now, Dan Mold back on the inside. Later on the brakes, there's contact, and Dan Mold, he can't get the car slowed down and ends up on the roof of Sander Borst. That's not what we wanted to see, the lead battle. Sander Borst just decides to try and slow down, grabs reverse to try and get Dan Mold off his roof, and neither of them able to negotiate that from one Borst to the other. However, it's Patrick Borst still up in the lead after that incident. Kalle Kavisto will be hounding him to the line. Roberto Garcia looking good for a podium now. Stephen Orell has been handed 4th place with Scotty Angelo in 5th, and look at that now. Sander Borst sat right the way down in 12th place, and I think we may have seen Dan Mold return to the pit lane. We have indeed right the way down in 18th place now, but with 2 laps, or 1.5 laps in theory, of this race remaining. Patrick Borst, all he has to do, I know it's easier said than done, all he has to do is hold off Kalle Kavisto like he's been doing for the last couple of laps. But Kalle, now he will have that extra little bit of fire in his belly, knowing full well it's no longer just the podium up for grabs, it is that race win and those crucial championship points, which will give him a nice little helping hand up the order.
Yeah, Kalle Kavisto qualified in second place and finds himself in second place somehow. And if you're not necessarily a fan of the Discovery Channel, maybe looking away now would probably be a sensible move, as Dan Maud goes up the inside. It just wasn't ever really going to be on, was it? It was too much of a late break against Sander Borst. It doesn't look like it was, you know, I don't know, Jack, that's a hard one, but I don't think that was on. But what is on is the final lap, and these two drivers. Kavisto goes round the outside of Patrick Borst. It's now or never, you could argue. There's no other opportunity for a tow down into the first corner, so Kavisto knows that it's now or never. He goes round the outside. He's going to look up the inside of turn 3. Is iRacing Netherlands going to lose a race lead yet again? And it looks like he may well do, but it's a good run, isn't it? It's a good cutback by Borst, and he has that race victory in his hands yet again. Around the outside, though, we saw Campos managing to just about get it stopped, and he's on the white line as he hits the brakes and gets it pulled into the apex. Nicely done by Patrick Borst here. Only half the lap to go, and it looks like he's going to try and keep hold of that race lead for defensive driving by any means necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. You could see the rear suspension of Patrick Borst Mazda there. It was just a blur bouncing over the bumpy side of the circuit. Just about managed to keep it off the grass, but it's Patrick Borst still in the lead. Kalle Kavisto is going to have to find something special on the brakes in towards this final corner now. Roberto Garcia just about nipping into this battle with one more lap. I'm sure the complexion of the race would completely change, but round the final corner for the final time, and round 5 of the Sunday Drivers MX-5 Cup here at Summit Point. Who's going to get it? It will be Patrick Borst crossing the line to take the win here at Summit Point. Kalle Kavisto grabs second. Roberto Garcia, after all of that, he does come home to round out your podium, and then it's Stephen Norell in 4th, Scotty Angelo 5th, Joseph Kivany in 6th, Matt Tempest 7th, Sander Borst, after leading the race for such a long time, a race-long battle with Dan Mould. Sadly, of course, the pair of them came together. He does cross the line in a respectable 8th place, being surrounded by a sea of Simtech cars. Rob Jackson in 9th, James Austin 10th, Amanola Bacchus in 11th, and Xavi Lopez rounds out your top 12. And we've still got a few drivers out and circulating, of course, just a few more to cross the line. Here is Enrico Puttenstein, as John Brown just nips in front of him to grab 16th. Enrico Puttenstein crosses the line in 17th behind the wheel of that number 33 machine. And, well, how could that have got any closer, Jacko?
Yeah, everybody just take a quick breath. That was quite incredible. And it never fails to amaze us, does it? The sort of speed and the aggressiveness of the driving here in MX-5. But that's what you got to do. It's not necessarily about who's necessarily the fastest. It's about who can maintain their speed for the longest whilst fighting with other drivers. And Roberto Campos, I bet he can't believe his luck that he's got 3rd place out of all that. After what was a really strong sort of beginning of the race, making his way through the order. It looked like that mid-race was definitely going to be his. All of a sudden it goes Pete Tong, and he comes back up after collisions with other drivers, mean he's promoted to 3rd place. Absolutely fantastic. But we can bring you the race results here now. Jack, take us through it.
So our eventual race winner here this evening, iRacing England. They were looking for possibly 2 cars on the podium. Sadly, they only get 1 there, but it is the most important step. Patrick Borst in the number 41 machine takes the win here at round 5, takes maximum points as well, of course. 1.2 tenths ahead of the SRL machine. The Finn, Kalle Kavisto in the number 3, and Roberto Garcia, after what was an eventful race, is probably the best way to put it. He struggled in qualifying and then had a fair few little comings together, is probably the politest way to put it, in the race. The number 19 Spaniard crosses the line to round out your podium. Stephen Norell, good result for him. We don't normally see him this high up the table, but that is going to be a great haul of points for the number 68 Holy Cow Racing Machine. Scotty Angelo rounds out your top 5. We should have kept an eye on him a little bit more because, of course, he was competitive in quali and very competitive in the race, evidently. So quite a standout driver for me. And then it's 2 more Simtech cars in the way of Joseph Kivany and Matt Tempest. And it's Sander Borst crossing the line in 8th, sadly losing out on that podium position on the final couple of laps. Then it's Rob Jackson in 9th, James Austin rounds out your top 10. Then it's Amanola Bacchus in 11th, 12th with Xavi Lopez. Then it's Neil Armstrong, Louis Correa, Dirk Resky, John Brown making good improvements after that earlier incident in the number 44 machine. Enrico Puttenstein in 17, and then we get onto our lapped cars of Sander Ware for H20 Racing. And Who else do we have? We've got Dave Gaddis, Timo Paya, Ben Hicks, Sven Dalemans, Pedro Marimon Cladera, Arturo De Villa, and then I think we get onto our retirements of Dan Mould, Sebastian Hain, Juan Benavides, and Michael Ellett in 28th. Then we have Mackenzie Mann, Eordanin Tsvetanov, Rene Ware, Dean Cattlewood, Jason Guara, and Robert van den Heuvel, I think, retired on the first lap of the race. And I know we always say it can never get closer, but we go to Charlotte in 2 weeks' time, and I can guarantee they will find a way to get even closer. I don't understand how it's physically possible. They've got down to almost atomic level on how close you can get in motorsport, and they will still get closer. This championship, you just cannot describe it. It's so, so close. And I'm sure we will have a few drivers ready for an interview, Jacko, and some of them will be over the moon, some of them slightly disappointed, but nonetheless, I can guarantee they've all had a great time.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we're waiting for, isn't it? You said it's impossible to describe. Hopefully, we will find some drivers to come in and have a chat to us and potentially describe their race. Although, I think if we ask the likes of Roberto Campos and the Borst, I think we could be here for the next, an hour. But I'd be absolutely fine with that, because it means we get to relive what was an absolutely thrilling event, evening's action here. And in fact, already we do have an interview in the interview waiting room, Jack. So I'll let you have a chat with Kalle Kavisto.
So, Kalle Kavisto, welcome to the SRW commentary box. You must have had quite an exciting race, not necessarily from the driving point of view, but just being able to watch that race from behind all of the battles and then come through on the final couple of laps of the race to take the second step on the podium. It couldn't have gone any better for you. You obviously qualified incredibly well, starting on the front row, starting in second place. You had a hell of a lot to watch, and then, like I say, you come home with that podium and a great haul of points for yourself and simulation racing leagues. How can you put into words what this night, or how this night has gone for you?
Oh, I think after all that, he's not even here.
Yeah. Do we have you with you, Kalle? Are you with us, Kalle? Just about. I think we do have you. We will have to turn you up a slight bit, Kalle. But yeah, welcome to the commentary box. I'm not 100% sure whether you heard what I said, but put into words what you think of tonight. Yeah, we can just about hear you, Kalle.
Okay, yeah, I heard you quite well. Yeah, so let me just move my mic a little bit closer. Yeah, so everything went as planned. Me and Michael, we were having this strategy during the qualifying that we will give each other a tow, and we both did quite well. And then I shouldn't be this high up in standings pace-wise, I guess, but I was just trying to keep it between the white lines and paid off.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a difficult circuit here. Of course, at Summit Point, it's a very tricky circuit. There's lots of different corners. There's so many different lines you can take, and so many different driving styles you can adopt around here. What was your sort of outlook heading into this round? Because it's almost a polar opposite to Silverstone GP, which we were at for round 4. So, what were you maybe looking forward to, slightly loathing coming into round 5?
Trying to survive, because last season we had this race. It was a second race, and I was second place, and I crashed into the car in front of me and took both of us out. Then, so I was just trying to not to do that again tonight.
Well, I've got to say you did a damn good job, and of course this is of course round 5, so not many races left in the season. Of course they are spread out, but you've got to think now getting the points is going to be so crucial for yourself and SRL. So what do you think this will do for your championship hopes? I know some drivers maybe just don't really think about the championship because it's just we are all here for great fun. But you were tied on 36 points with Peter Reid, yourself, and of course James Austin, tied 14th. This will give you a good little helping hand up the order. I think you'll overtake Pedro Marimon and Matt Tempest, possibly even Dan Mould. So it might even just promote you towards the top 10. And at this point in the season, that's going to be a great helping hand towards the latter part of the season.
I do believe that at the end of the day, the driver who is more clean get very good points at the end of the season. So I'll believe that if I just keep doing what I'm doing, eventually.
Well, I'm sure you will get on very nicely as we get towards the latter part of the season. But thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box. Once again, well done on your podium here this evening. Before we let you go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out while you're live on Sim Racers World TV?
Well, yes, you guys for commentating. It's good to be back here, by the way. and all the drivers, my teammate Michael, we did quite well qualifying. I don't know what happened to him. I check it out, and yeah, just overall all the people who were watching the stream. Thank you. That's it.
Great stuff, and thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box. Once again, well done on your podium here this evening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Bye-bye. That was Kalle Kavisto there, a rather quiet interview from himself. We hope you could hear him, but we do have one more driver to bring in at the moment. Let's hope we can grab another before we go off air. But Patrick Borst, welcome to the commentary box.
Thank you.
That swung your way beautifully, sadly at the demise of your teammate. But Patrick Borst, you're a race winner here in the Sunday Drivers' Cup, and I've got to say, I don't want to say it was handed to you because it definitely wasn't. You had to battle your socks off with Kalle Kavisto and Roberto Garcia throughout that entire race, and it just swung your way. The number 41 machine crossed the line in first place. How do you feel?
What a race. I'm sweating like hell. Cars everywhere. It was a very tough race, and I got hit by some cars, but I made it through. And yeah, it's a pity my brother crashed with Dan Malt, I thought, in front of me. And now I went to the inside, and Keller was sorry. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, Keller was overtook me once, but I can take it back, and and I won. But a very tough race.
Yeah, I've got to say, it looked incredibly tough. It sounds like you're quite a popular man with a Discord call coming in.
Yeah,
in the
my brother calling me.
But I've got to say, 20 laps of Summit Point, you might think, well, it's not the greatest circuit in the world, but as usual, the championship brings with it an entire circus of entertainment, and with a range of nationalities and a full grid. It must have been quite a busy point of view from yourself, but in 2 weeks, 3 weeks time, pardon me, we go to Charlotte Motor Speedway for round 6. What's your outlook on that? Like sort of looking forward to it, maybe just wanting to get it out of the way. What's your outlook on that?
Now, Charlotte, I haven't drove there, and Summit Point, it's not a nice circuit. I'm not going fast there, but yeah, every race I'm in the front, but yeah, I've a lot of bad luck. The first 3 races, spun in the I've been hit the first corners, but I didn't expect to win here. But yeah, I don't know what Charlotte. I never drove there, but so yeah, we'll see. We will see.
Yeah, well, we'll look forward to that. And of course, iRacing Netherlands were sat in second place in the Teams Championship on 108 points, only 5 points adrift of Fast Cars Go Bang. So I think you will manage to get past themselves. So therefore, taking the Teams Championship lead. And where were you in the relative points? You were in 6th place, 1 point behind Louis Correa. Of course, you've outscored everyone here this evening. That's going to give you a huge haul of points. So I'm not sure whether the championship is something you think about, but it will have definitely given you a leg up on your opposition heading in towards round 6.
Yeah. What Luis Correa? What did he finish? What position?
Louis Correa. Let's have a quick look. I'm actually struggling to find where
14th.
he finished. Yeah, he did finish in 14th place. So after
Okay.
what was a dream qualifying for him,
Yeah.
yeah, he finished outside the top 10, which is a shame for him.
Okay.
However, at his loss, it's your gain, and we'll look forward to seeing what you muster up at Charlotte. But yeah, like I said, it's going to give you a leg up on everybody else.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough battle. The level is very high, and now we shall see. But it's a very nice competition, and I'm looking forward to the next race.
Well, we are indeed. And it's such a shame that they're 3 weeks apart, because honestly, I could do this every single week, and I'm sure it would be quite a job for you. Like you say, a very quite a physical race here this evening. But once again, massive well done on the win here this evening, and please do send my wishes the way of Sander Horst. Of course, I can imagine he is.
He's very
rather
disappointed.
furious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine he is rather disappointed. But we'll look
Yeah.
forward to seeing you both back out in 3 weeks' time at Charlotte. Before we let you go, as per the usual script, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out while you're live?
No, I will thank Sander Weir because of the good championship, and now back to the next race.
well, we'll look forward to seeing you in 3 weeks' time. Once again, another well done from ourselves here this evening, and we'll see you in 3 weeks' time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Patrick Borst, they're such a great fella, and he's definitely he's just nice and calm. I think he's just happy that he can finally breathe and he doesn't have to keep one eye on the road and one eye on the rearview mirror. But incredibly well earned from himself. While he wasn't there the entire race, he definitely fought for it with Kalle Kavisto, Roberto Garcia, and of course we've got to think he did battle throughout qualifying with his brother Sander Borst and Dan Mold, all for those top positions. And to the victor the spoils. He got to the front, got the points, and there you go, on to round 6.
To finish first you have to finish, don't you? And so it's very much gone the way that for Patrick Borst this evening. But I mean, what a race! Even in qualifying, with these guys were going flying up the inside of each other, weren't they? Left, right, and centre, diving into each other, and it was, I suppose, a sign of things to come, Jack. And I'm very much looking forward to the Charlotte Roval, another one of the tracks that is free right at the beginning, a bit more of a throwback track than anything else for a lot of these drivers. You know, a lot of the drivers that are turning up to here, they may do a little bit of GT racing, they may do some open wheel stuff, they may just race MX-5s. But what is probably quite true is they've all driven the Charlotte Roval in an MX-5 at some point. It might just be a bit more longer time ago for some others. So very much looking forward to it, and with any luck, we'll have some good racing without necessarily some of the overly ambitious moves.
Yeah, let's hope so, but I'm sure they will definitely give everybody a run for the money and definitely give us everything to talk about. But yeah, annoying that 3-week break, but I'm sure a lot of the drivers, a lot of the cars, a lot of the teams just need that cool down break after what was an immense show here this evening, Jacko. And as always, it's been an absolute pleasure to commentate alongside you here this evening, and we'll look forward to some more of this Master MX-5 action in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, and on that note, we will bid you adieu. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching here on SRW. Thank you to those drivers who have come in to have a little bit of a chat to us and a share on what there's been an absolutely epic evening of racing. We'll be back in 3 weeks' time for more Sunday Drivers MX-5 Cup action. However, if you do want to see more sim racing from around the world, you can check out the Sim Racers World YouTube channel. We got racing nearly every day at the moment, and it's surely the site to be on if you want to get your fix of high adrenaline action. My name's been Jack Oliphant. I've been joined by Jack Werrell in the virtual commentary booth. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much.